the first thing that you'll need is a couple of packs of dumpling wrappers. Pork mince or some chicken mince if you're using meat, or some prawn, depending on what you're doing, or vegetables. So I'm just going to use vegetables in my mixture today. So it's about 200 grams of chicken mince or pork mince or prawn mince. Great. I've got some cabbage. We've got some carrot. You'll need some shallots or spring onions, depending on what you call them. You'll need some ginger. I've just got the jar of ginger, but if you've got whole ginger, you'll need about 5 or 6 centimetres of whole ginger. 5 or 6 centimetres of whole ginger. Oh, spring roll pastry. All right, fantastic. Well, thank you for letting me know about that. I'll explain that to you in the end. Great. You'll need some soy sauce. You'll need some rice wine vinegar or some Chinese cooking wine. If you haven't got that, it's okay. Don't stress about it. If you've got it, great. If you haven't got it, there's no drama. You'll need some salt. You'll need some sesame oil, some beautiful sesame oil. And if you've got some white pepper, grab some pepper from your cupboard. Beautiful. Excellent. All right. So and you'll need some oil to cook your wrappers in. Great. All right. So in terms of equipment, you'll need some measuring spoons. I've just got my little handy dandy ones here. You'll need a bowl. I've got my mixing bowl here. You'll need a metal fork or a little masher, but a metal fork will be absolutely fine. You'll need a knife if you're cutting vegetables. You'll need a little bowl like this. I hope you can see that. That's clear. Just a little bowl because we're going to put water in it. You'll need a container or you'll need a baking dish like this. I'll hold that up. A baking dish, like a baking tray that you can put your dumplings on, raw. And you'll need a little serving bowl, plate. You can just have a dinner plate to put your dumplings on once you've taken them out of your fry pan. You'll just need a fry pan like this. Where is my overhead gone? You'll need a fry pan like this. If you're making pot stickers, you'll need a lid as well for your fry pan. You'll need a pair of tongs. And you'll need like a egg lifter. Brilliant. All right. Are we ready? Fantastic. So the first thing that we're going to do is that we're going to prepare our filling. So if you've got meat, I want you to pop your meat straight into your bowl. If you're using cabbage, then you're going to slice your cabbage up and pop that into your bowl as well. And you want it really thin. So I'm just doing my cabbage. And you want it really, really thin. Great. Is chicken or prawn, or you can have chicken and prawn, yeah. Chicken, sorry Grace, Is it chicken or prawn or a mix? If you've got both and you want to use both in your mixture, you can use both. You'll probably only need altogether about 200 grams of filling. 200 grams in total. Yep, Grace, yep, perfect. Excellent. So I'm just slowly slicing up really, really carefully. You can see in my overhead camera that I've got my hand on my piece of cabbage here and holding it really slowly. If you want to make sure that it's nice and stable. If it's easier to do a nice big chunk like that and then very slowly chop it in a smaller piece, you might find that to be a little bit easier. As I always say, chopping is not an Olympic sport, so we just do everything slowly and carefully. Perfect. So once you've mixed up your, hang on. All right, so once you've got your meat in and you've mixed your meat together with your fork or your masher, then you can do your carrot, and then you're going to put the carrot in with your meat. Put your carrot in with the meat. Now, you're not going to need a massive carrot. Like if you've got a really big carrot, chop it in half. You'll only need half of it. And then I've got my carrots on top. Beautiful. Excellent. Remember to keep turning your fingers or turning the carrot to make sure that your fingers are far enough away. And it doesn't matter if you end up with a little bit of carrot. What's more important is that your fingers are nice and safe. And then if you want to just give your mixture another little mix, so you're tossing your carrot through your meat mixture. Once you've done your carrot, then we're going to move on to our shallots or spring onions. Now, spring onions are a funny sort of vegetable because sometimes they're super, super thick, and then other times you'll go and pick up a bunch and they're really, really thin. So we don't want our whole mixture to taste like spring onions. So like in the same bunch, I've got this really big chunky one and I've got this really little tiny one. So I'm going to use this big one. I don't think that I need any more than that. And the first thing I'm going to do is chop off the stalk, just that stalk at the end. I don't need that. Right. And then this is what I do because I'm a little bit on the lazy side. I chop my spring onion in half and then I put it all together. Then I chop it again, put it all together. And that means that I only have a short amount of spring onions to chop up. You can use scissors. Like if you find it easier to use a little pair of scissors to chop up your spring onions, you can do that. And we want nice, fine, it's called finely chopped. So again, nice and slow. Nice and slow. And I'm using nearly all of the stalk. Oh, I'm throwing food around. I'm using nearly all of the stalk of the shallots. So nearly as much as I can up the end. If you've got a little daggy bit at the end, you can chop that bit off, but it's really usable. So I just pile mine on together. If you look at it and you think that one of your pieces are a little bit too big, just inspect it before you pop it in. And if you've got any long bits, just get rid of those. You don't need those. We want our shallots to be nice and finely chopped. And then once you're done, you can put them straight into your mixture. Straight into your mixture. Fantastic. All right, so the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to start grating up our ginger. So if you've got like a whole piece of ginger, you're going to start grating it. If you've got, I've got minced ginger in the jar. So I'm just going to do a nice big tablespoon of ginger. A tablespoon of the minced ginger, and have a smell of it. Oh, I love ginger. A tablespoon of ginger, you want to smell it, make sure that it smells amazing. I love it. And if you're grating it, where's my grater gone? You want to use, see, that's the side that we used for the carrot, but for your ginger, you'll want to grate it, not on the very finest one, but on a big one, like for hard cheese or for ginger, just so you don't end up with a whole lot of little ginger fibres. So 1 tablespoon of ginger. And then we're going to add 1 tablespoon of soy sauce. 1 tablespoon of soy sauce. There are different kinds of soy sauce. You can get light soy sauce, sweet soy sauce, regular soy sauce, gluten-free soy sauce. Just use whatever you've got on hand. The recipe does say light soy sauce. It doesn't matter. Now, you'll find that I always measure at the side of my bowl. I never measure over the top, because if I accidentally spill my mixture, my ingredient into the bowl, I don't know how much I've spilled, particularly if it's a liquid like soy sauce is. So I measure it at the side and then I slowly move it into the bowl. Something I have to say, I've got to take a photo. I'm that mum. All right, fantastic. And then we're going to do 2 tablespoons of Chinese cooking wine, if you've got it. Chinese cooking wine. Now, remember, when you're mixing everything, if you're using prawns, you don't want to be absolutely mashing your mixture. You're just nice and gentle now. So it's 2 tablespoons of cooking wine. And again, don't measure over the bowl. Do it at the side, and you'll see that I am a messy cook. So I do spill things and drop things, and that's the nature of cooking. Beautiful. 2 tablespoons of Chinese cooking wine. You can make your filling as complicated or as simple as you want. So can we use rice? Yes, rice wine vinegar. I do the same amount, Owen. 2 tablespoons, yes. We're balancing out sweet and sour and And then it's half a teaspoon of salt, half a teaspoon of salt. I know we're using soy sauce, but whenever I've made this recipe before, I always have felt like we needed a little bit more saltiness just to bring out those flavors. So it's half a teaspoon of salt. Beautiful. And again, I measure at the side. And then I sprinkle. And the reason I sprinkle is just to make sure that it doesn't end up in a lump. Fantastic. Half a teaspoon of salt. Excellent. And then we're going to use sesame oil. Now, I love sesame oil. Love it. Have a smell of the bottle. Ooh, it's a very strong smell, but you're only going to use a little bit of it, and it's going to all mix through. It's going to mix through with the vinegar and the ginger, and you're going to end up with beautiful, beautiful flavored dumplings. So you've got 2 tablespoons of sesame oil. 2 tablespoons of sesame oil. So you'll find that there's a little, like a really little hole on your sesame oil container on most bottles, just so that you don't overuse it, so it comes out nice and easily. So 2 tablespoons of your sesame oil. Beautiful. So, so good. And then when you're done, you're just going to very gently with your fork or your spoon start mixing those beautiful flavors in together. Great. Once you're done, we're just going to put that to the side a bit, and we are ready to start making dumplings. Great. So I'll just let you guys get organized. So I've got my, just set it aside, I've got my mixture there. What you'll need to do is get a plate or a baking tray. Now I've got my, just a normal baking tray, and I've put a piece of baking paper across the top. Piece of baking paper across the top. And all we're doing this for is when we make our dumplings, we're going to put them on here ready to go. You might want to get some cling wrap as well, depending how warm it is in your house. We don't want our little dumplings to dry out. So just grab some cling wrap ready to use. You might not need it straight away, but right. Beautiful. All right. Now, I've got my filling here. I've got my pile of little Gougy wrappers, and I've got my water here. Then you'll need a little spoon. Or a teaspoon will be absolutely fine. So what I'm going to do is, the first thing I'll do is I get my finger and I literally just wet a half moon, like a half moon on the edge of the pastry. Not all over it, just half moon. Great, so if everyone wants to do that first. Then I'm going to get a teaspoon of filling. And remember, the first one that you do is always your test one. It's always the test one. So you don't want too much, because if you have too much, then what will happen is that it either won't close properly, or it'll bust open during cooking. So I use a teaspoon, but work it out as you go along, particularly if you've got different sized pastries. So once I've got my little teaspoon in, and you can see that I've got a nice big extra pastry there, I close it in half, like a half moon. So close it in half, and then we just want to seal it up to begin with. Sealing it up. And making sure you haven't got any air in it. So sort of start from the filling, right? And we're going to do lots of these. So don't worry if you don't get it the first time. Then what I'm going to do is, you can see how I'm holding my hands. I've got my hands like this, and then it's like I'm a crab. So I've got my thumb and my forefinger, and I'm going to, so I'm pinching them together, and I'm going to create a Z on top. So you can see that, a Z, and then I'm pushing them together. Little Z, and then I do 2 more Zs. Now keep in mind that I have made thousands of these, so it just takes a little while to get it. Once you've got it, there's no turning back. It's like riding a bike. You'll figure out how to do it. Then I turn it around and I do it on the other side. And there is heaps of different ways that you can do your spring roll wrapping. So I just do that one. Now you've got a whole pack there. So again, don't worry if you don't get it the first time. And if you think you need a little bit more filling in yours, do that. You can add more filling. Remember that it's like when you make a pancake. The first pancake is always the dodgy pancake, but then it gets better. So the trick is making sure that you've sealed it all the way around. And then I do my Z. Now, some people start at the right-hand side. So you kind of develop your own little way of doing it. Okay, E750, how are you doing? Boss Mama, how are you going with your spring rolls? Yeah, going well? Well done. It's always a bit tricky with finding spring roll paper, spring roll or gougey wrappers. My local woolies never sold them until the last 2 or 3 months. If you want to play around with your designs, you can start at one end, or you can start, for me, I always start in the middle, but if you find a way, and I'm sure that there's a million YouTube videos out there on how to fold dumplings. And then you can also fold them like a wand. You can fold them like a little money bag where they all come together at the top, which is the easiest way to do them. If you're going to make these for dinner, you don't have to cook them now until just before you're going to eat. So what you can do is cover them with some cling wrap and then pop them into the fridge. So they'll stay there until tonight or even tomorrow morning. As I said, you can freeze them as well. But I'm just going to show you how to make pot stickers. So I've got my fry pan over a medium heat because I don't want to burn the bottom of my beautiful dumplings here. And I've got a jug of water, and I've also got a lid. And my tongs. So because I'm using a non-stick fry pan, I'm using non-stick utensils or plastic utensils just to make sure that I don't scratch my non-stick pan. Beautiful. So I'm just waiting for my fry pan to heat up a little bit. Then I'm going to add 2 tablespoons of oil. 2 tablespoons of oil. I'm using olive, but it's probably better to use like a vegetable oil. Perfect. And if you're short, well, if you're short, you probably will be cooking with your parents, but you want to make sure that you hold your arm up nice and high over your fry pan. So it's always good to either stand on a stool or just so that you're nice and safe. And I wouldn't do this without a parent unless you're older. I can see some of you guys are older, but this is definitely one of those parts of the recipe that you need to have adult supervision for. So I'm just going to So I'm using my tongs and I'm going to add my beautiful dumplings. I don't want to crowd the pan. I'll do this in 2 lots. So I'm looking for the bottoms of my dumplings to be nice and golden. And I don't turn mine except to check. So what we're looking for here is just for the bottoms of our beautiful pot stickers to get nice and golden. And if you're not sure on how to do it, always start with just 1 or 2 to test, and then, here we go, then you can do more. All right, so mine, if you can see that, I've got some nice golden underneath, golden bottoms. That one's too golden. So I've got my lid here because it is going to spatter. And then I'm going to add half a cup of water. And now I'm steaming the dumplings. So all of that water created lots of steam, and that's going to cook the meat through. So if you've got meat, your ones will take a little bit longer, so maybe about 4 or 5 minutes. You want to keep your lid on to keep all of that beautiful steam inside. So what will happen is it'll have a nice, beautiful, crispy bottom and steamed, fluffy, soft top. So when you're cooking them, you want to have your sauce ready to go, whatever you use, whether it's soy sauce or sweet chili sauce or some sriracha. Yum. All right, I'm just checking that. Oh, yum. Beautiful. Oh, so good. Perfect. Yum. Excellent. Oh, good question. Medium heat. Do you empty the pan? All right. That is a great question. I don't empty my pan, but what I do is I give it a couple of minutes. I give my pan a couple of minutes for the liquid to evaporate off. So I don't empty it, but I just allow them probably just a minute, and then that liquid will evaporate off, and then you'll be able to put the next lot in. Great question. And how do we steam in a pot? Oh, okay. You probably need to have, it'll roughly be the same time, but if you're steaming, you will need to have a steaming pot. So, or a steamer, like the proper steamer, and it's the same, it's a similar sort of, yeah, if you've got a steamer pot, your parent will know how to use it. You'll just need the water, but the trick with steaming is to make sure that none of your dumplings touch. So you want them separated, but it will be around the same time, probably about 5 minutes when you put it in and the steam coming out, going crazy, and then they'll go all nice and soft. Brilliant. Excellent. All right, guys, well, I'm going to leave you there. So lovely having everybody today, and you will love making your dumplings and eating them for dinner tonight. Fantastic. Steam in a pot. It's about 5 minutes if you're steaming them in a pot. Yeah, excellent. All right, guys, thank you so much. Lovely having you.